So, this is what I've been up to lately. I know I have not made a video in a long time, but that does not mean that I haven't been sewing. In my last video, I did mention that I was going to try working through this Susan Briscoe book, Japanese Taupe Quilts. But instead of using the taupe colorway, I was going to use all the blues in my collection. So in another video, I had worked through the easiest blocks in the Japanese Quilt Blocks book. This is also a Susan Briscoe book. And I really enjoyed that process. For that one, I used a variety of colors, and now they're just kind of sitting in a drawer. I'm not sure what to do with those blocks, but I will do something eventually. Oh. Hold on a second. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with all these blue blocks yet. I mean, I could put them all together into like a scrappy quilt, but I'm really not sure how all of these blues play together. I mean, blue comes in so many different variations, and I don't know how well like the purpley blues work with the more turquoisey blues. So I'm going to have to think some more about that. Another idea is possibly continuing to work through these books and bringing in more color. And I could also bring back my more colorful ones that I did in my other video, and then have a really truly colorful, scrappy Japanese patchwork quilt. Let me think about it some more. You know, if I did bring back other colored blocks, that could help break up some of these blues that are not playing well with each other. Maybe I'll get my other ones out of the closet and then mix and match them in here and see if that's going to be a viable option. As I've been working through this book, and actually I've been using the blocks from this book as well, only the easy ones so far, I've definitely found some that are my favorites. This one right here. I love how this little golden blue fabric is peeking through these tiny little windows. I think this one would be a lot of fun to do with other colorways and other special feature fabrics to put in the squares there. Another one that I really like is number 4 from the Taupe book. It uses 4 different fabrics here to create a kind of woven cross here in the middle. And I think that looks really cool. And that might be fun to see it replicated through an enormous quilt. Not enormous, but just a bigger quilt, and see how these fabrics can flow from one block to the next. Actually, I did make this one again. This one is using a really colorful fabric that I love. And I am in the process of planning a quilt using this fabric, but that's a whole other video. I also really like this one right here. I just think that it looks like you're underwater and you're looking through a window into the ocean. And I think it would be so much fun to do this block in different colorways. And in the book here, she has used a different color in her different windows here, and of course using a red border and sashing. Another favorite of mine has been this one here, and I have made it 3 times. This one, and that one up here. This one I love particularly because this turquoisey blue, it looks like it's glowing in the dark. This one is number 14, and it's called Knot because it's supposed to look like a knot. And you can see here she's used a really light fabric, a mid-blue fabric, and then a dark blue. And she really gets a great effect with her color and fabric placement. My effect here that I got was a lot more subtle, but I still like it. And I think this one would be fun to do in an entire quilt where you can use lots of different colorways. And making these blocks involves what I would call, or what I would consider, a very fussy cutting and pinning and piecing procedure, because for the majority of them, I'm just making one of them. I imagine that if you're gonna make multiples of a single block or a single style of block, then you could become a lot more efficient in terms of maybe strip piecing or how you're cutting things out or how you're sewing them together. But right now it's just become a real, almost meditative process. I've really just enjoyed the process of it all. It's like putting a puzzle together. You know, first you look at the pattern, you choose your fabrics, you know, you cut each one out, which is very, very fussy, pinning each one, putting them through the sewing machine, and then seeing how it all comes out. Now, that doesn't mean it's been as successful every time. It definitely has not. I'm not really what you would call a natural color person in terms of like being able to figure out ahead of time or be able to see in my head or look at fabric and tell what's going to look good with another fabric or another color. So there's been a lot of trial and error. And there's been times when I've gone through the whole process and I've got the finished block in front of me, even though I've laid it out beforehand and looked at it beforehand. And then when I finish, I'm like, oh, that didn't quite turn out the way I wanted, or, you know, it just isn't as impactful as I wanted it to be. And I'll show you an example of that. This is called Simple Pairs Variation. You get this really cool design here. It almost looks like a bug or spider or something because she used really contrasting fabric. Well, I didn't. I thought this was going to be a cool effect, but you really can't see that effect that she got, that kind of bug effect. That's because my two fabrics are too similar. So it did get remade to this one right here. And you can see a little bit better this contrast, but again, it wasn't enough of a contrast. So learning, slowly learning. I wish I'd learn a little faster sometimes. So I'm going to try it again with more contrast. You know, some turn out better than others. This one right here, which is all half square triangles, this one's called Scales. I don't know, I thought that was gonna look really cool, but it just looks very samey. I would also say this one too turned out pretty boring. I hope this is a skill that can be improved upon, like color selection. I really hope so. I hope it's not just something you're born with, so we'll find out. So even though I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do with them, I still think that this whole process has been very, very worthwhile, because compared to the first time I made blocks, and that was from this book, I have improved so much just by going through these blocks. I've improved with my cutting and even my pinning and how I'm using my machine. It's just been very, very valuable experience. And as I said earlier, I really enjoy the process of it. So I would recommend that if you are a beginner starting out with patchwork and quilting, that you find a book. There must be hundreds of books out there on quilt blocks, and just start working through it. You don't have to have a finished product, although probably most people do want a finished product. I don't know. I'm just all about the process right now. I just happen to be using these two books because I've always liked Japanese fabric. I've always liked Japanese quilts, and I find these books easy to use. Now, saying that, I've only done the easiest ones in these books. She rates them from 1 to 3 pins, and I've done most of the 1 pin patchwork blocks, because she also has sashiko blocks in here and applique blocks in here. I don't know why, but I'm just kind of intimidated by the next step. Some of the 2 pin or the intermediate blocks look like they're probably that way, but just because there's so many pieces. For example, that one up there, I think that's a 2 pin block. There's a ton of pieces in there and it took a long time. But a lot of the other ones involve shapes and techniques like half part-sewn seams, which I've never done before, or like working with triangles. I can do a half square triangle, but I haven't done patchwork with triangles other than that. I just need to do it. In fact, I think I'm going to choose the easiest part-sewn patchwork block in one of these books and see if I can figure it out with the help of YouTube. In the meantime, let me show you my workspace. It is just covered in blue fabric, and I need to think about clearing it off because I finally received the background fabric for my circles applique quilt, but I need to be able to cut up that background fabric, so I need some space. Anyways, the sewing space is never large enough for all these projects. Okay, so let's go look at my sewing space and let's see if I can do a part-sewn seam. So here's my work table. It is just covered, and it's been covered for about a month now in all of my blue, well, actually this is even all of my blue fabrics, but I've been having so much fun just picking and choosing from these fabrics and putting them together in those blocks from those two books. A friend of mine has given me her old dining room table. This is where I've been cutting the blocks, and also under the white cloth over there is my sewing machine. So I've been cutting and sewing over here, and then over here I have my little ironing station. So it's been really, really efficient. In the meantime, here is Miss Mavis. She is supervising as usual. How you doing, girl? Oh, it's a tough life. I have chosen from the Japanese Taupe Quilts book, number 45, the grouped well curb whirlpool. And I looked up what was a well curb, and that's the structure that's built around the top of a well. The brown that she chose has a linear pattern to it. It's very subtle, so it's going to give you a bit of a woven effect. And I realize I really don't have many fabrics with that kind of linear pattern in it. I do have this one. This is a Dan Morris pattern. I think it's called Into the Woods, or something to do with wood block or wood print or something. But I love this fabric line because the colors are so rich and glowing in any of the colorways. I'm going to cut some of the pieces, like this one right here will be this way. And then when I cut the vertical pieces, I'll turn the fabric and cut it that way and try to get that woven effect. Now for the feature fabric, the lighter fabric, maybe I'll try this. I already have these cut up. I'm not sure what the width is. I have to check. But I thought that would be really pretty together. And this comes from the same line of fabrics. This is Esty McLeod. Sorry if I did not say that right. This is the fabric that I want to make a whole quilt from. It's really beautiful, really magical, but also at the same time kind of mid-century look. I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting the pieces for this one. Looks like there's only one part-sewn seam here, so I thought this would be a good one to start with. I've laid them out according to the diagram here, and it looks like you construct these rectangles first. So I'll sew these together and then sew them to here, those to there, those to there, those to there, and then I'm going to part sew this to this. Now this is one of those instances that I mentioned earlier where I lay out a block and I think it looks really beautiful, and we'll see if it turns out. At least for me, I never know until it's all together if it's gonna magic together and become a real nice design. So let's get set up at my sewing machine. Alrighty, here we go. So I've got a chain of these here, and I did go counterclockwise in putting it together. So I'm going to put them back in the way that I sewed them. This is another thing that's tricky about piecing, especially these blocks that have a ton of pieces, is keeping track of them and where they go in the block. So double check, make sure they're oriented the right way and that you're sewing things together that should be sewn together. I am checking each time to make sure they're oriented right. I sewed two of these things backwards. I said just a few minutes ago, here I am, I'm double checking, to make sure everything's lined up correctly. The little one's supposed to be here and the big one's supposed to be over here. And the same thing happened with the bottom one, and I can't switch them around. I can't use them interchangeably. So I'm gonna have to unpick these, these long seams, switch them around, and resew them. Alrighty, I've got all my pieces are fixed. They're laid out how they're gonna be laid out. So the book shows that the part-sewn seam is this one. So I'm gonna sew about halfway along this block. I saw in videos never to go more than 3/4, so I'm going to probably go halfway to 2/3 across and join those two. I'm going to do a tiny back stitch first because I saw someone do that on YouTube. This is what it looks like right here. Now it said to press all the part-sewn seams to the outer side of the quilt. Let's bring it over to the pressing area. I think I need ice cream first. Before I tackle this. There's a place nearby that changes its flavor of ice cream every couple of days, and every now and then they have my absolute favorite, well, one of my absolute favorites, which is banana pudding, frozen custard. So I'm gonna go get some right now. And then I'll feel a lot better and I can come back and finish this part-sewn seam. I'm back. I'm full of sugar. I ate that whole thing of ice cream, banana custard with little bits of Nilla wafers and also caramel sauce. So I feel a lot better now. Probably gonna crash soon. I'm going to continue with the part-sewn seams. I did 3/4 of a seam. You see that there? Left this much. And I am going to switch now to the bird's eye view and show you what I'm gonna do next. Now this is from looking at different videos on YouTube for doing part-sewn seams, just simple ones. The book, she gives directions, but I almost feel like it's for someone who knows a little more about piecing than I do. So thank God there is YouTube. I've already ironed that down towards the outer side of the block. I think I sewed this one on. And then once I sew that one on, I can sew this one on. Then I could go back, fold this back. Does that make sense? All right, I'm just gonna go for it. I am going to pin it and sew it and come back. All right, that's sewn on. I've always heard that you're supposed to press the seams first before you press them in the direction that you want them to go. I guess it sets it somehow. I don't understand the reasoning behind it, but I've just been doing it. If anyone can explain why that is, let me know. Okay, and then it says press the seam to the outside of the block, so that would be in this direction. It makes sense that this would go on next because it fits perfectly here. So I'm just gonna do that. And if I do it wrong, then I'll hopefully learn something from it. Okay, I'm back. Hey, someone tell me, should I not be using steam? Let's see, I guess you fold that back. I see, so it's part-sewn, so you have room to do a seam here. Oh, okay, that makes sense to me now. I think I've got a handle on this. Iron it outwards. So I guess the next part is just finishing this seam here. I feel like I did something wrong, but I think I'm still gonna get a good result. I don't know what I did, but I think it's gonna work. I'm gonna start it here and then go finish that. I'm proud to say that I did it. Check it out. It worked, and I'm gonna do some more of these. I'm gonna do some more I want to call them set-in seams, but I'm thinking of set-in sleeves because I've been watching the British Sewing Bee, and they were doing set-in sleeves. I'm talking about part-sewn seams. That is what I'm going to practice. This was, I think, a very simple part-sewn seam block, but I feel like I can maybe try another one now, maybe that has more than one or uses a different shape, but we'll see. But there's nothing like learning a new skill to really boost your confidence. What do you think of the colors I chose on this one? I think the lines turned out okay in terms of looking like a weave, but it's really made me think I need to get some more stripes in my collection. It's always good to have a reason to go fabric shopping. I mean, I'm trying to use what I have, but I'm only human. I can't resist some of the stuff out there. I completely forgot to show you these. These didn't make it onto the design wall. I really like this one. I think here I kind of went wrong with my fabric choice. I don't know, this was not a good one to put in the center. It just isn't quite special enough. This is kind of fun right here. Again, this is like the closest I could get to a stripe other than the one I just used. This one is okay. I think the light blue part is too light for the dark. So now I am going to put up some of the colorful blocks, things that I made last time around, and I'm going to intersperse them with some of the other blue ones up here. I am just going to overlay like I did with this one right here, so you can just get a general idea of how it'll look with the different colors mixed in. You know, this purple one right here is what this one is right here, just in different colorway. Wow, that's kind of crazy. that is bright. All right, I'm gonna put on a time lapse here because no one wants to watch me just slow pinning. I think this has actually been a helpful exercise. I'm really liking the color mixed in with all the blues. Obviously, if I made this into a quilt, I would do a lot of thinking about it, about where things go. But I think my next move, as far as this whole project goes, is to get out some other colors, keep working through the books, and also try some of the harder blocks, and then figure out a way to put them all together. I don't know if I need sashing in between each block or if I'm going to sew each block directly to the next one. But what I would love is if you have any ideas about this, if you would let me know what you think. It's so helpful when people write in with their comments and their suggestions. The next video that you're going to see from me is probably going to be about the Circles applique project. Hopefully that won't be too much longer, and I will see you really soon. And thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, that would be great if you did, and to leave me a like if you like this video. Every little bit helps grow my channel. So next time it won't be so long, and I will see you soon. Bye.